It is time for yet another community watch party for a Pantheon developer stream. It is Thursday. If you've been tuning in the past few months, you'd know that normally I do these on Friday. Okay, and the reason that I've been doing that is because it has been very fun to be able to pause the stream and talk about it as we go. So in order to do that, we have these streams normally the day after. The developer live streams, second Thursday of every month. Here we are on the second Thursday. Normally I would be doing it tomorrow. However, tomorrow I am going to be away. I'm going to be adventuring, you could say, camping with my family. We have an annual camping trip every year, and that is tomorrow. So I won't be around tomorrow. So we're just this month, we're just scooching it up a day so that we can react to it live as it's happening. So there's gonna be no pausing in this one. I'm gonna either have to just talk over them, or maybe save some of my thoughts till the end. So that stream is going to be starting in about 20 minutes. But you know, it's been a whole month since we got together. I want to see how you guys are doing. What's the latest with you guys? Yeah, Edibari, a live reaction this time. It's been a little while. It feels different. It's going to be a little weird. One thing that we are carrying over, though, I should mention, that we are going to be playing Pantheon Bingo again this month, even though it's live. You remember last month, feels like last year. No. Last month we debuted Pantheon Bingo, which is a game that was created by myself and the rest of the team at the Library of Pantheon fan site. And that was a blast. We had a lot of fun with that last month. It's just classic bingo, but Pantheon themed. So as we're watching the stream, we'll call things out that are on our bingo card, some things that are like commonly said or seen during these streams, and we'll see who gets bingo first. That was fun. It was honestly, it was a lot harder than I was expecting. And that was being able to pause. There was a couple times we would pause the stream and then go back to be like, wait, did they say what I thought they said? So this is gonna be like extra hard mode this month, I think, because there's no pausing and going back. We're just gonna have to roll with it, and we're gonna have to like lock in and pay attention so we don't miss anything. So looking forward to that. But what's up with you guys? It has been a pretty busy month for me, but I feel like I haven't had a chance to like chat with you guys as much because I've been busy. You might notice that I haven't been posting as many YouTube videos recently because my focus lately has been shifted to things like the Library of Pantheon fan site. We've made a lot of improvements to the site recently. Just a few days ago, we announced that we archived over 700 images from Pantheon's Kickstarter era, which is like 2014, back when the game was first announced. And so it's part of a larger project to document all the images that Visionary Realms has released for Pantheon over its entire development process. I mean, we're talking massive project, but I think it's really going to be worth it because I think it's going to provide a really unique perspective on like the visual progression of the game from the very beginning to today. So very big project, but I think it's very much worth doing. And so obviously we're starting at the beginning in 2014 and have successfully cataloged all of the images from 2014, put them up on the library website. You can head over there right now, libraryofpantheon.com, and go check that out. And so I'm kind of in like the middle of that sort of thing. A lot of other kind of like side projects that aren't necessarily, the typical YouTube videos that I produce. You know, those will definitely be coming later down the line, but just kind of shifting gears right now. So that's what I've been up to, but I've been looking forward to sitting back down with you guys to see what we got going on tonight with Pantheon, which is an update on art and world building. So, obviously, very, very important topic, the world building and art creation aspect of Pantheon's development is very much a bottleneck for them. You know, just creating art is just so time consuming, and when you're creating an MMORPG, I mean, you're creating an entire world. all of everything that would populate a world, you know, needs to be handcrafted, and especially for a small team like VR, it's just an enormously large task. Now, fortunately, they recently hired 4 or 5 new artists, which is awesome, very much needed. And so, in fact, now the art team is larger than it's ever been in the game's history, which is awesome. So I think it'll be really, really interesting tonight to maybe try to, you know, start to gauge, like, you know, what sort of impact that those new hires have had on their world building progress. Obviously, again, you know, we're just kind of getting like a sneak peek. You know, so there's you never really get the complete picture from streams like this, but we'll get a little bit insight, I think, which would be very interesting because yeah, like I said, the art creation has always been a big hurdle. It's, you know, for any MMO, but especially for Pantheon. So there's gonna be a lot to see. There's gonna be a lot to see in this one, I think. A lot to look for sure. Bolthar says, "Are you a full-time content creator or do you have a day job?" I absolutely have a day job. I'm not full-time because, you know, Pantheon, really, it's my main interest right now, and I just don't really have the drive to branch out into other games. I want to stay focused on Pantheon because that's what I know and that's what I'm interested in. And there's just, to be honest, I mean, I keep myself pretty busy, but it's not enough to sustain like a full-time operation that would pay all my bills, you know. So I've got my day job that I work, that, you know, that pays the bills, and then when I come home, Pantheon, working on the channel and the website, the library website. That's my hobby, you know. It's my pastime, and I enjoy it. But as my mom always told me, I take my fun very seriously, which is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And so, you know, sometimes it might seem like I'm treating it like a job, but that's just because my enjoyment stems from taking fun seriously, if that makes sense. Colleen says, "Do you think art is a bigger bottleneck than programming?" Absolutely. Especially at this point. At this point, there's and especially now that the vinyl network library has been integrated, there's the amount of programming that actually needs to be done pales in comparison to the amount of art that needs to be done. I mean, like, they haven't even completed the art for one full continent yet, and, you know, there are 2 whole other continents that are going to need to have the same level of detail. You know, as they've talked about before, there is something to be said for reusing certain assets where it's appropriate. So, you know, it's definitely a logical fallacy to be like, oh my god, they spent 8 years making one continent. It's going to take them 16 years to make the other 2 continents. That's not how it works. There, you know, there is a momentum factor involved in, you know, you make like a rock asset or a tree asset or even a building asset. You know, walls, roads, all these sorts of different things that like those can be reused, and so it's like you make it once and it's a lot of time up front, but then once you have it, then the rest of it kind of comes together a lot quicker. But yeah, by far it, art is the bigger bottleneck. Like that's not to say there's no programming work left to be done, but you know, a lot of the foundation of the programming is pretty much where it needs to be, and so it's just, yeah, it's just not even close. Saucefire tuning in tonight. Welcome, man. Question: if you treat fun like work, why do you hate fun? This is a philosophical question. You're making me think. Why do you hate fun? Is that under the assumption that I hate work? Maybe I just like work. Maybe it's a really complicated way of saying that I just enjoy work. Let me put it this way. Let me put it in more gamer terms. I'm objective driven. Like, that is what is satisfying to me. And I think this actually stems from being an EverQuest player pretty much since the womb. Is that like my brain just functions in quest tracker mode, right? Like, and I know EverQuest didn't have a quest tracker, but that's because we had to track our own quests. You know, the game didn't do it for you. We had to track our own quests. And so I think I find it so fun because I just treat everything like a quest. Everything is an objective. Whoops. And that's just what makes it fun for me. I enjoy the process of like setting a goal, whatever it is, whether it's in like, you know, my professional career or a hobby or whatever. Set a goal, okay, and it can be a big goal. It can be an epic quest. Set a goal, and then what do you do when you're in a quest? You don't just jump straight to the end. You have to take that quest and break it down into smaller objectives. Some of them might be optional objectives. Some of them might be required. Some of them might have to be done in a certain order. You know, and that is a practice that, you know, a lot of like project managers in the workplace will go about, even though without realizing that, you know, MMORPGs are pretty much the same way. So I that's just kind of how I don't know, that's just kind of how I look at things, and I feel like it makes everything more fun no matter what you're doing. You know, you can be very productive and also have fun at the same time. Blue Sky says you like to manage your fun. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe that's a way. Is that a way? I guess that's probably a pretty good way of putting it. Chromacore, welcome. Welcome back. Good to have you here. Speaking of art, we have the man himself, animator from VR, in the house. Talking about, we're gonna see. Looking forward to seeing what we can see tonight in 8 minutes. Looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts, and of course, Chroma, if you feel like chiming in, please go ahead. We will be happy to hear what you have to say from your perspective on this. Thunderlike JSL says, as long as the game is functioning across the board, then I do not see art as a bottleneck, just a momentum drag. I mean, I think that's kind of one and the same for the most part. you know, when I say bottleneck, it's like that is one of the primary things that is just it's holding them back from being further than where they would be, you know. Otherwise, if they had a bigger art team, like, yeah, you know, their departments work in conjunction and in parallel in many ways, so it's not, you know, if everything was waiting on art to be produced, then yeah, I mean, that would be a true, I guess, the strict definition of bottleneck, like that, and that would be a very bad situation. That'd be a very bad situation if nothing can get done until, you know, you're waiting on these assets to get made. But so yeah, I know what you mean, where it's, you know, it's a momentum drag. It's holding them back from really cruising, you know. Reasonable person says going to rewatch it again tomorrow. No, because like I was saying at the beginning of this stream, I'm gonna be gone. I'm gonna be gone tomorrow, so I will not be rewatching it again tomorrow. I may rewatch it at some point, but I'll probably be doing that off stream. Because what I have found when we're doing these streams, I just inevitably will miss some details. As you know, between chatting with you guys and now we're playing Pantheon Bingo, which my hope is that Bingo will ultimately help me to stay focused on like what we're seeing and hearing. But last month, you know, it was new and I was a little overwhelmed, not gonna lie, I was a little overwhelmed. Between everything going on, you know, when you're running a show, it's a little bit of a juggling act. And so sometimes I just, you know, there's something I just won't hear the devs say or whatever. And of course I want to absorb as much as I can. So I will often go back later, just kind of on my own time where I can really sit and like be with it for a while, you know, to make sure I don't miss anything important. Welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. It seems like the VR stream just went live. They've got their starting soon screen up there. But we're about 4 minutes out, okay? Everybody, you know, if you need to go get a drink, now's the time to do that. Because again, this is live. There's gonna be no pausing. As soon as we start, we're just steamrolling right through it, okay? I don't know how long this one is gonna be. I would tell you if I knew. Sometimes they go like a half an hour on their end. Sometimes they go like an hour. I don't know. But we're gonna find out. Normally when I do the reaction streams the day after, I'll do it earlier in the afternoon, my time, like 3 p.m. Eastern time. So again, normal schedule is the second Friday of each month at 3 p.m. Eastern time. But now it's quite a bit later where I am. Again, just this month we're switching it up a little bit. It's a little bit later, but I'm still gonna stick around. We'll chat about it afterwards. So make sure, you know, tune in till the very end if you are interested in hearing my perspective, and we'll just chat about it together and then kind of assess what we got here. I will do my very best though to not talk over the dev. So again, so that we don't miss anything. Unless I get bingo, then you're gonna know about it. I did not get bingo last month. The bingo cards have since been updated again. Thank you for Blue Sky. Got the command in chat there. That's the link, the librarypantheon.com/bingo-hall. That is where you can go get your bingo cards. Do that now. We're just a few minutes out. You can play along with me. I will switch over to my screen here where you can see my bingo card. All right, go ahead, type !bingo in chat. That will pull up the link for you. You can see my bingo card here. Yours might look the same. It might look different. It's somewhat randomized. And so this has been updated since last month. we've added some more words into the mix. So, but you never know. You never know what the devs are gonna say. So we'll see if hopefully somebody will get bingo tonight. If you do, let me know. Put it in chat. And we'll see if the last month it kind of seemed like the devs were messing with us a little bit because they heard that that we put out these bingo cards, and so I hope there aren't any devs out there in the stream that like have their card up on another screen and like, okay, can't say that, can't say that. Welcome, Nunam. We got Thorndeep, Monty, Blind, Animate Acumen, Donler, Desrin. Lots of familiar faces in here. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. Monty, by the way, for those of you who don't know, used to be a artist and world builder on Pantheon back in the day, back when I first started following the project, back in like 2016, 2017 timeframe. So definitely curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. We're gonna see. I'm going into this with very moderate expectations, and we're just gonna see what happens. Yeah, Thorndeep, I know it's a little bit of a surprise. We're doing it differently. We're gonna go back. I plan on going back to the regular schedule next month. I don't think I have any schedule conflicts with that one. Oh, here we go. So let's see what happens. Go ahead, check off your free space here in bingo. Hey, Yas. Are they?
So thank
My
you
bad. Sorry, guys.
We got a lot of stuff to show. So welcome to the stream tonight.
It's going to be packed. This is a big one. I'm not going to say I'm the E word because I think that's a bingo tile, but I am looking forward to this one.
I told you about tonight. It should be good. So,
oh man, they're screwing with us already.
We have a lot to show.
Oh
this
no,
is probably going to go a little bit longer than our standard half-hour stream. I have a feeling. Chris, you want to sort of lay some of the groundwork of what we're going to see tonight without getting into specifics, kind of set the table, and then we'll get going from there.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of art to show in general. So we've announced recently a lot of the new hires that we've made have been to our art department, and they are absolutely fantastic people and fantastic artists. So we'll be able to see a little bit of what they've been working on tonight. And then really the main focus is going to be on world building, kind of the expanding world building process we've been involved in, and drilling down even further than that would be specifically in how we've begun developing out our mountainous regions. These are, if you're familiar with the World Atlas, you've seen, there's quite a bit of mountains on Terminus, and so we've been hard at work developing out those regions, and as they serve as very important transitional areas between different zones, different areas that you would be moving from one to the next. So we're excited to show off a lot of that, and we'll talk about some of the tech, involved in that. We'll just kind of be a visual feast a little bit. We'll talk about some of the gameplay implications as well, and then several other little bits and pieces that we'll hit along the way.
Awesome. Sums it up good. The best thing we can do is jump in.
Is the audio good now, guys? I know there's a little bit of a difference between their volumes. I can't really do anything about that.
Behind the scenes at VR.
But hopefully sounds better now.
All right, so the first segment we're going to go into, we've done this before, behind the
scenes.
We're
in so much trouble, guys.
We're going to talk a little bit about
nobody's getting bingo
and some additions to the team. So Chris, we're going to get started really hot and heavy here with some stuff that people have never seen before. So I'm going to throw up some of the art we're going to look at here. And if you want to kind of explain to people what we're seeing here, and then we'll kind of go through each one. So take your time and let's chat about it. So there you go. First one is up. So
very cool, yeah. So this is the entrance to Avelia, which is the human village in Thronefast outside of the main city. For our VIPs, people who've actually played Pantheon, you'll know this village, but we've desired for it to have more of a kind of a, not a regal footprint, but it is the prominent city town outside of the main city itself, and so we've wanted to give it a little bit more of a presence. And in developing out more of the Thronefast kit itself for the actual city, we're now able to start imbuing some of that into the village as well. So this is the first image of several that our new concept artist Brett has worked on, helping to kind of not only capture some of the structures themselves, but a lot of work has gone into the layout of the village as well. Which we're, as with most things, we're very enthusiastic about showing more of that off. But let's go to the next one.
I was going to say that style is a little
cool.
different
Like
than
this is concept art that's
in the past, but it looks good.
Looking at screens and being in game. Some of them are even sketched over, right? Like over an actual scene in game. So some cool stuff to see here. So what is this that we're seeing?
Yeah, this is more of that development of Avelia. So we wanted really a centerpiece to the village, and also wanted to explore more of the kind of the way we want to handle residential areas inside of the city of Thronefast itself, which is in some of this kind of vertical stacking of structures that you're seeing here. But excited about kind of the giant golden windmill.
He said it.
Is going
excited.
To be, at kind of the heart of the village now. And also some of the implications that has for the arcane watchtower that used to be near the village. It's actually going to be in a little bit of a different location now, but we had two competing tall structures and it gave us kind of some good inspiration into where we could capture the essence of that arcane watchtower and where we could actually place it. So we might even see a little bit of that here in a few minutes.
What's really cool about that too, Chris, is, the way that we're designing Terminus is for points of interest, like things that see and you sort of place in the world. So when you're traveling, it's not looking at a map, it's sort of understanding the world. Things like these are just amazing points of interest. So very cool. Love this one. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, so this is Avelia. And when we talk about kind of, bringing that village into more of its own, this is really the heart of Avelia is kind of a port town in the sense that it's right off of the main canal, the main channel that feeds from the ocean into Thronefast, which is a port city. And so we wanted to, as we thought about really finalizing the layout for Avelia, we wanted to really bring the heart of it into that port. And so Brett's done a fantastic job here of really finding that kind of plaza-like look that we've wanted to see with Avelia, that kind of central meeting place for shops and vendors and other, just kind of that commercial hustle and bustle area of the village, because it really is a major kind of township that we wanted to really have a footprint that felt that way. Plus, we really wanted to kind of finally play into that relationship that Avelia has with the waterway, and kind of a natural byproduct or a natural offshoot of Thronefast as a port-focused city. So love this shot. I think it speaks for itself. In just about every concept piece we do, one of the things that is part of our DNA, anytime we're in any kind of creative meeting, any kind of meeting about art or game design or anything like that, one of the things we really focus on is that theme of exploration. And so even when we think of our villages like this, we want, looking at this picture, for there to be places where you see that you want to go and check out what's there. There's a few staircases that you can, if you look closely enough, you can see that feed in between a few of the structures that, kind of hint that there's more, to be seen by really going in deep. Plus, you've got a shot of the well in the center of the plaza. We all know what's at the bottom of wells, usually water, but sometimes there's opportunities for more. So in anything, we want there to be a sense of exploration, that players are constantly being reaffirmed that, yes, there's more than meets the eye here. Awesome.
So a little bit more of that town square feel, but a little smaller, a little market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, boots on the ground kind of a view, where we Brett has done an amazing job of getting us into kind of the world of these places that he's been working on. And so being able to visualize the townfolk and, not only just the kind of the way that Thronefast is sitting in the background, but, how these markets can be set up. And it's just very helpful, whether it's calling out something specifically or not, like this is a blueprint to go and build this thing or that thing. It's helpful to be able to envision what life would look like on the ground.
This is a big one. So some very big, drawn out expression of maybe what we're going to see. So what can you talk about here?
Yeah, so this is the section of Thronefast that we haven't really revealed yet or talked about yet. And so when we talk about Thronefast as kind of the crown of Terminus as far as capital cities and as a port city, it makes sense that the port of Thronefast would be something grand and something very just majestic in scope and in look and regalia and all those things. And so here we see the port of Thronefast. We see kind of the shipyard and, some of the way that Thronefast intersects with its waterway, just like we've done with Avalia. We've taken time now to really build out how Thronefast is going to interact with the ocean as well. And then let's go ahead and put up the other slide, because the key here is to make sure that we're always thinking not only in 2D, but also in 3D as well. And so Brett, this is also Brett's work. So Brett not only is doing these 2D concept art pieces, but then he's also able to go into the 3D and kind of inform his own 3D efforts by using that concept art to, build out kind of the first gray box steps towards actually realizing these things. And this goes a super long way for our 3D artists to be able to take this kind of foundation, not just the concept art, but actually kind of the basic 3D art as well, and then begin, building those things out.
Also helps a ton for space, right? When you're figuring out how to fit it into different areas and things like that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say adventure?
I don't. Pace a little bit here.
I don't think so.
Where's this nice little? I like to call it a little sanctuary, but a little hidden out into the middle of nowhere, sorta. What are we seeing here?
It looks that way. It's actually in Avalia. This is the Corsairian temple that exists inside of Avalia. And so this is where your human clerics and your human paladins would begin their journey. There's a lot of symbolism here in the water and the greenery to Corsaira and who she is as a celestial. But this is the Corsairian temple, and it's very reflective of the kind of the headquarters of the Corsairian order inside of Thronefast, in style and in motif and symbology and whatnot.
Excellent. I think you got everyone excited by saying the word paladin and cleric there. So, So I think we're seeing another potential class area here. What's this here?
Yeah, this is the monk dojo or the monk temple, and this also is located. Kind of, I'm not going to say where specifically it is in Avalia, but this is where your monks will begin their journey.
Very cool.
Oh, so you're actually beginning in Avalia.
So what is this here?
Yeah, this is a rogue, the rogue starting area, and or one of the rogue starting areas, I should say, potentially. And this is again just an exploration of whether it's roguedom, whether it's banditry. Another thing to call out with this concept art is we've spoken about before, reusability is very, very important. And so when we do something like this, where we're, concepting out and kind of blueprinting barrels and scaffolding and platforms and, hooks and ropes and campfires and stools, these things, they give us a kit. And the kit that we develop of these pieces can be utilized multiple different places, in multiple different ways. And so, but this is also, like Jared has done many times, our lead concept artist, it gives us an idea of, how to actually build these areas out to capture the kind of composition that we're looking for.
Kind of sticking with the theme here, little sketch out.
Yeah. This is one of the first pieces that Brett did, and this is starting to really dial in some of the more interesting aspects of the G'day Bandit and kind of the general King's Reach banditry type structures and aesthetic. And so we fell in love with this, immediately in terms of just kind of the precariousness of the perch these things, and the fun of like the traversal up into these areas, and how it's going to, you know,
climbing.
We're going to be talking
climbing
about
is the word.
with the mountainous areas. You know, these are very buildable. They're very buildable into the mountain regions, and allows us to, you know, seed banditry in the presence of bandits very easily. But it's also just really whimsical and fun to see.
The multiple levels too, you know, when we talk about Pantheon, one of the core aspects of our gameplay is climbing. So when we see,
hey, there it is. Thank you.
It really brings that wonder in, like, oh, I can get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some games you just see it, but we're going to be able to get there.
For sure.
Another little dilapidated house here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is also an exploration of, so we, you know, the actual residential dwellings that we're building for Thrown Fast, for Avelia, for Demeth, for the, you know, the human settlements. We need abandoned versions of these. We need rundown versions of these to, you know, just kind of decorate the landscape, to create kind of that fringe area around the villages, places where, you know, bandits may have taken residence, or hermits, or, you know, just unexpected denizens that you might run into in places like this. Again, all about creating just that sense of exploration, things to find, places to discover. And really, we know anything like this we see as potential for, you know, either something like the disposition system to create unique encounters, even in more mundane places like this, all the way to certain events or rare spawn NPCs or things that can, you know, show up. One of the things I personally miss a lot in MMORPGs today is that feeling in classic MMOs where, you know, you're running through an area and you see a cottage or you see a house.
You got bingo already? How?
There's no quest and there's really no lore, but there's NPCs there and they have names and they may say something to you. They may not
even close. Did you just
there's
get
so much
5 in a
storytelling.
row?
There's so much environmental storytelling that happens there, and some of those incidental findings, to use a term that Jared has coined, these incidental findings where it's part of making the world feel believable. It's part of making the world feel real, that there are people that
see, I'm bad at this.
Living their lives.
I'm bad at my own game.
Eking out a presence here. And so we're excited to see architecture like this in this kind of state come into the game so we can create more of those incidental findings.
Awesome. I think the first time I saw this, Chris, I said, ooh, I really like this. So what do we see it here? Me too.
I had a similar reaction. The only thing I'm going to say about this is it's beginning to explore some of the underground aspects of Thrown Fast and some of the sewer aqueduct type environments that we want to explore. And I will leave it at that.
Is that an electrical light at the top?
This is our last one here. So we've seen Cleric and Paladin. We've seen some Rogue. We've seen some Monk. What is this? This is the warrior kind of militia starting kit and starting area that you'll see in Avelia as well. Awesome. Cool. All right. So that's going to do it for some of that concept art. But you were talking a little bit about building. So you talked about, you know, building things that we can use and reuse and kits. So let's go ahead. Why don't we show where we're at in progress there? Because we just saw a lot of great concept art. And I'm going to actually start by showing some of the original concept. This is old school. This is some of the original concept art of buildings. You know, anything from the hand sketched here, the next one here being more rendered out, painted over. But why don't we show where we're at now and kind of give us some thought process on this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of our new 3D environment artists, Leonardo, he has been working on developing these buildings, these residential structures for Thrown Fast, for Avelia, and the human starting areas. So we're seeing those building kits finished. These are building kits, so they're completely modular, which means we can create, you know, any kind of variation or, you know, combination of different pieces, walls, roofs, doors, ramps, platforms, and begin building out all of our residential areas. So whether it's the concept of Avelia we were looking at earlier with, you know, more of that plaza around the waterway and the overall village layout, whether it's the Demeth Village and Avendir's Pass,
whether it's just incidental cottages and things like that. We now have a very robust building kit that is emblematic of the Thronefast and the human architecture. And so what we're seeing in these images is actually a village area in Avendir's Pass, where it's a good ways away from Thronefast at this point, but it's still close enough and under
only combat. We only need combat now.
That we're still seeing a lot of that Thronefastian inspiration in the architecture, and kind of that same human architecture.
I don't know what I would do without you guys. Itself. It happens so fast.
The kits are beautiful. Leonardo's just done an amazing job staying true to the concepts. Again, there's just a very wonderful amount of explorability in these structures, of the way that they can be pieced together.
I'm just so caught up in the art,
very sparse, but also very busy and compact residential layouts. It's just a fantastic kit. So kudos to Jared and kudos to Leo for his execution. This is a great shot, just showing a little bit more of kind of an overall view of, how the structures can be, have been, pieced together to create more of that.
That's a lot of buildings.
Sprawling village type feel.
Yep, and we got a little bit of teaser there in that image, and we'll get back to talking a little bit more about some of the stuff you might be seeing in the background there. But so that's some of our concept art that's building our environment, Chris, and then into those actual buildings being created. As you said, kit based, so that we can not just
that's in game.
Start creating towns and cities with slight variation. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. So we talked a while back, Chris. We showed a lot of materials that we were starting to create for our crafting process, and we know that our fan base they're big into a meaningful crafting system.
Hey, crafting!
We wanted to kind of take
we're on a roll.
Step further.
I'm feeling good about this one tonight.
We revealed HDRP. We showed a little bit of mining, but we kind of had placeholder nodes. So why don't we show a little bit of where we're at in that process? And I think people will be pretty excited. Let's start
placeholder. I know what he's talking about.
There a little bit. We'll start with some concept art here of one of the types. So what this is.
First of all, I just gotta say, I don't know why anyone had an issue with the old old nodes that we showed in the last video. I thought those were pretty solid. Kidding. Yeah. So this is the kind of the more mineral based crystalline based mining nodes. Not all of our mining nodes will be crystalline like these, and we'll be showing off another round of these in an upcoming stream, but we're going to focus on some of our crystalline mineral types today, and we have just a batch of them to show. The first one we just looked at was the Karenite, and now the Shining Karenite variation of that. And you can kind of go through these quickly.
Sure.
The Slitherol.
And
then the Glittering Slitherol. And then finally the Tassium. And these are different variations. They're not only variations in the coloration, they're also variations in kind of the internal patterning, and also in some cases the crystalline structure. But what I really like about these is, the way that David has designed for these nodes to be is they come in 3 size variations. So you have the normal sized, the large, and then the huge variation. And with each variation in size comes different difficulties in harvesting and gathering the material from the node, and the amount of time that it takes and how difficult that may be has implications for whether there's any kind of teaming up that is involved, depending on how large the node is. And also has implications on where, not only the rarity of the material, but also in some cases the size of the material or the size of the node might also play into where they can be found, how difficult they are to reach, and so on. But yeah, we've actually been able to start incorporating some of these in. Yeah. So we've got here, we've got our Slitherol, our Glittering Slitherol, and the Tassium ore nodes. And now the thing here, and I'm sure David's probably going to be talking about this in chat a little bit, but these nodes we're showing off because we want people to see them, being brought into the game. But all of these are meant to be more subterranean type materials. So these are not things that you would really typically find in an overland setting. So that is something to keep in mind. But this is an opportunity for us to show progress on that front. I mean, getting the crafting system, the gathering system further developed, and having, you know, real ores and real nodes and real minerals that are, you know, actually unique to this world and part of what can be made in this world is a big deal. So that's another shot here. We see the two Karenite, the Karenite, and then the shining Karenite. And I think they're beautiful. What I love about them is really not only their visual appearance as a whole, but I love a lot of the detail that is inside of these and more, you know, kind of up close to these. So yeah, really pleased.
A little bit better than the other ones. A little bit. You don't miss the other ones too much.
It's subjective. I can't. Yeah, again, I don't know why anyone had issue with.
Well, as you said, we kind of showed those pictures to kind of show them off. You know, probably not going to find a patch like that of all that stuff sitting there to mine. But we have a couple more shots. Let's show. We have a couple of still shots, but then just kind of show it in the world. This is in the engine. Can see the tree. And
is this in-game footage?
Maybe stumble upon.
I'm going to call this in-game footage,
like you were saying. Go ahead and show one more here. I love this shot. This is again right off the game server.
Yeah, it's a great shot. We won't talk about what happened to me while we were taking this shot. There was a nice surprise waiting for me up here that I wasn't prepared for. So shout out to whoever placed that. You know who you are and you know what I'm talking about. That was a really nice surprise.
It was almost like a slight little like jump yell, like a jump scare.
Yeah.
And we got one more here. This one's interesting, Chris, because what are we showing here with this one? It was important we kind of captured it like we are.
Yeah, so as you pan back from here, you're going to see that this is, you know, tucked into a sheer ledge, kind of a sheer indention in the wall. That
I was going to say the same thing. Blue Sky. Is it a video montage?
Drive home what we've been saying, which is a lot of these, you know, rarer materials are going to be in places that are very difficult to get. Sometimes it's because there's very, you know, difficult enemies in the way or difficult encounters blocking the way. Sometimes it's just how high up off the ground is it? You know, it's in a nook in a wall that's 100 meters off the ground that if you're not able to climb that high or figure out some way to traverse to that area, then you're not going to be able to reap those rewards yet. So it's that shot was meant to just kind of drive that home.
Awesome. So really great stuff there. Love seeing all the contributions from this art team. And I think you had, just to kind of announce, we've brought another member onto the art team as well. What is their role?
Well, so the last time we announced our new hires, we announced the addition of the animator, the character artist, the 3D environment artist, and the
concept artist, environment concept artist,
animation rig
things live.
Yeah.
But we brought on 4 additional new hires. Oh, and the concept artist, Brett.
Yep.
So Brett, Leo, Tara, and Duarte we've added. But then we've also since then we've added a 5th new member to our art team, Esther, who is also a 3D environment artist. So we've actually brought on 2 additional 3D environment artists now, both of which, as you've seen Leo's work today with the residential structures, and Esther, who's diving into the Gadai Bandit, kind of those like mountaintop perched structures that we've talked about. So we should be able to start showing some of that off soon.
And I love how the team is specializing in these pieces.
Look at it. I can got it. 4.
We've shown off how
4 in a row, 3 ways so
if you
far.
Guys go back and look at that.
Congrats,
kind of everything
Goofy.
We just showed is a process of each person having a hand in getting to that next stage, and it's just been incredible. So
I still don't have bingo.
I think there's one more team member we wanted to talk about.
For all these,
board, who's going to be joining our programming team. Pretty exciting announcement.
Has already joined our programming team.
Yeah.
Has been part of our programming team for a while now.
So, do you want to introduce this person and kind of talk about what they've been working on?
Yeah. So recently, Chris Rohret and I had the opportunity to sit down with a man named Steve Clover, who some of you may know is one of the co-creators of EverQuest alongside Brad McQuaid. Steve was responsible for not only a significant amount of the general coding that went into EverQuest, but he also did a significant amount of the heavy lifting for when it came to design. He touched everything from player races, zone design, the overall map layout, many of the gameplay systems. Steve approached us with an interest in joining Visionary Realms, and I'm happy to announce we brought him on board as the newest member of our programming team.
Are you serious?
Steve has a true passion for the game that we're creating, and he's already dived straight in deeply. He's busted out our bank system. He's coming down the home stretch on our death system, including our near-death mechanic, which I'm excited for us to kind of talk through a little bit more soon. But he's an amazing guy. It's an honor to know him, and his passion for MMOs and his passion and energy that he's brought to the team just in the time that he's been here has been infectious. So very excited to announce the addition of Steve Clover.
That is
very exciting,
huge.
And I know
I will talk about that. I'll talk more about that later.
That exciting as well. But I think more than anything, Chris, you hit on the fact that the reason he wanted to join our team is because the belief in this project, the belief in our people, those he's met, those he's continued to work with now. And I think when we look at this giant picture of everything, expanding our programming team, expanding our art team, it's all forward, right? Like everything's moving forward, everything's moving faster.
Yeah, Steve Clover.
We're so fortunate to have some amazing people. We talked about it earlier today when we were prepping, not just people who are great skilled at what they do, but amazing people. And when you have a team that's a smaller size, being able to have amazing people who want to work together and support each other is just motivates us that much more. So it's incredible stuff.
Well said.
And the one thing I do want to say is, without the support of our community, the pledges, the word of mouth, the support on these streams, the sharing of content, following us on social media. I mean, I could go on and on forever, but all those levels from everyone who supports us, from donations and up, we just want to say thank you. Don't forget, if you have just discovered Pantheon or you're looking to support us in another way, you can check pantheonmmo.com. There's a pledge page there you can check, or follow us on social media and share it out. Spread the word. We really appreciate all the help.
Did he say crowdfunded?
Given us, everyone in the community, because it's what makes our team growth possible. So thank you. So that was it for behind the scenes. We do have another segment. I'm gonna go ahead and roll that, Chris. Are you ready to go for the next part?
I can't take it. I can't cross it off.
Feet on the ground.
Oh boy, are we gonna get the halfling voice again?
I know everybody just got really scared that we were gonna have a halfling voice, but not today, because Chris, you're sort of our feet on the ground, and I don't believe you're a halfling.
Are you sure you don't want to try to mimic that voice without using any voice altering technology?
That was me. That was minus the halfling. No, it'd be bad. We'd have a lot of people jump off. So in the field, what we want to talk about is really dialing in now to the terrain. And Chris, I think everybody got excited when we showed that teaser for this whole stream tonight, and some of the terrain changes, and some of our shots have shown a little bit of that off for those who are looking, but we want to get a little bit more in depth here. And before we do, I want to go ahead and feel free to start commenting, but I'm going to show old footage. So what everyone's about to see here is this is old. We showed this when we unveiled HDRP, but I wanted to show it as a comparison for a little bit here. So Chris, I'm going to run that. I don't know if you want to add anything to what you're seeing here.
Yeah, this wasn't even that long ago.
Only that this was a big step, but not anything that we were overly enthusiastic about, because for us, this was, we had completed the HDRP conversion. There's a lot of good things that came with that. And fundamentally, the potential and the power was there to start doing some really great things visually. But being open development, we give updates, as significant updates as we can and as we feel are appropriate every single month. And sometimes that means showing things in a state that's not fully there yet, or hasn't, fully been brought to its realized point. And my hope is that every month that goes by, that's becoming more and more clear, that, when we show things, they are in many cases in progress, and there will continue to be improvements, whether we're talking about animations, whether we're talking about visual effects, audio, or the world itself and the visuals of the world. And so what we are excited to show today and start talking about is, now that the HDRP pipeline has matured in our development process, and our utilization of it has matured, and now that our tools that we've developed, that we've talked about over the last year or so, have continued to mature and expand, we've started to move into the second phase of our HDRP. I shouldn't call it the second phase. It sounds like it's this almost saying. We've started to be able to utilize HDRP in ways that we've been excited to utilize it for, and specifically when it comes to the development of our mountain regions. And so what we've been working on recently and what we're about to show here is the way that we've taken those tools and taken the power of the HDRP pipeline and started to really shape the larger scale footprints of our world. So let's go ahead and now show the...
I heard scale.
I didn't want to take this off.
I still don't have bingo, though.
Yeah, that's why I kept playing. So I was like, oh.
All these different ways to get bingo.
Here is a new look here. And Chris, you can explain what we're seeing here.
Wow. That's a long draw distance.
Let it sit in for a second here. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing a view into Avendir's Pass from Thronefast. And the main thing that I want to call out here, yes, there are visual improvements. You can tell it in the lighting, you can tell it in the sky, you can tell it in the coloration and the quality of the materials that are being used, and on and on and on. It doesn't mean that it's, got every bell and whistle that we're after. We want, more biodiversity in our flora. We want there to be, there's always that tension of like the POIs that we don't want to give away. And so
that's tricky.
it's very tricky. But specifically, what we're wanting to call out here again is the way that
those huge pillars in the background
have taken shape. And what you'll notice is that we've embraced kind of this somewhat pseudo form of terracing in the environment to start to take those melted ice cream, kind of terrain blobs and actually turn them into playable space.
And just for the record, the melted ice cream, that was an internal. That's what they were called.
I was going to say Chroma just called it that.
Official term. Correct. Yeah, that's correct. And the amazing thing about this is by utilizing mountains in this way, we've essentially doubled our play space in these areas. So as vast, here's another angle of Avendir's Pass. As vast as these zones were, now when you consider all the playable space that's opened up in these mountain areas, we have over twice of the playable space in these zones now. There's obviously a lot of implications for traversal. We talked before about the verticality of Pantheon, how we want climbing to matter. People kind of turn their nose at an idea like climbing because typically climbing is used as a gate of just a very specific path. Like, here's the section of the wall that you can climb up, and only this section, and it's this very linear little path, whereas what you see here is a vast open world where if you see it, you can go there. If you can climb there, you can get up there and explore what's there. There's no, linear pathway telling you that you can only do this here and only do that there. And it's for you to explore, for you to discover. Let's keep...
switch to the next one here. When I do... one of the other things, Chris, with going to HDRP and going to a sort of seamless open world, right? How has this, what we're seeing in this change in the terrain, how has this played into that? Because I think when we originally had a zone-based world, you kind of had to create zone spots, right? That was sort of in the design. You had to have areas that would zone you to the next one. But now that it's an open world, how does this impact that?
Well, it just kind of reinforces that sense of freedom of navigation. In zone-based games, you're looking for that funnel. You're looking for that place where the game tells you you can go to the next area through this path. Now, you can get there. If you can get there through that means, then that's a means you can get there through. We're not telling you how to move from Thronefast into Avendir's Pass, how to move from Avendir's Pass into Silent Plains or into the Eastern Plains. We're creating a world where you are free to make those decisions for yourself. And we're designing the overland of the game to allow players a lot more creative freedom in how they do so. Now, we're also, making areas that are very difficult to access. I mean, one of the points of this shot is to show off really the extremes of elevation that you're going to see in some places, where this mountain up here, kind of center shot, it's 300 meters off the ground. Can you find places where, you don't have to climb as far to get up top? Perhaps. But it's still going to be a massive climb. So that's a plateau that you're not going to see players being able to even see what's up there for a long time. And that's kind of just a little teaser of how we're trying to design the world as a whole, whether it's height or whether it's depth, that there would be places in the game that, not just because you're max level, and now that I'm max level, I can go anywhere I want, but the world is opening up more and more to you as you invest your time in some of these horizontal aspects of the game as well. Someone that power levels themselves all the way to level 50 max level and is as geared as you can possibly be, let's say, doesn't mean that they're going to be able to get up there.
Yeah.
So we're trying to create some of these horizontal aspects of the game where really the sum of your holistic parts as a character are what is going to determine how much of the game world is opened up to you over time.
So we'll show a couple shots in another cool area here. If you want to chat about this, I don't know that it's ever been seen before. This is actually going to be new.
Yes. So this is actually Mad Run. So I know some players have seen this before, but this is a pretty intensely reimagined with this mountain topology starting to come into shape. It's allowed us to do a little bit of reimagining
light rays
of Mad Run, because
trees?
we've always wanted Mad Run to be more of a significant point of interest than it's been in the past. And so you can expect it to have much more of a vibe, much more of a presence. We can shift to the shot after this too. It's part of this another angle from inside, kind of deeper inside of Mad Run. But yeah, it's you can expect there to be a much more well-developed experience in Mad Run now than you've seen.
Right, so we got one more video shot here. This is a kind of a cool shot. Whoop. What happened? Here we go. There we go. So neat little shot here. I don't know that we want to reveal where this is. But it's a pretty cool shot. You see that tower. Again, sort of that point of interest, something that would really make you want to get up there.
Yes. Yeah, I don't mind sharing where this is. This is actually behind Thronefast, and this, as I mentioned earlier, this is the new location of the Arcane Watchtower, and also the starting area for our Arcane users, for human Arcane users. And given that they're so high up, they're going to need a way to get down easily, because it's where it is, because it's meant to be inaccessible. Yeah, I mean, as these mountain areas have taken shape, it's when you log into Terminus, if you've been able to experience the game so far, the world has really started to become what Terminus is meant to be, and what we've always kind of really desired for it to be. So that shot to me is significant, because it's kind of this vestigial shot of an area that I think is, because we've utilized Thronefast so much in testing and whatnot, it's neat to see that area really take shape. It's also important because we wanted to we have one last image we wanted to put up, right?
Yeah,
and
that's the big one.
That tower is going to be important. That tower is important, and telling you where it is important, because if you think about Thronefast is kind of at the upper northeast corner section of Kingsreach, and the image that we're about to show actually takes place on the far western side of Silent Plains. And Silent Plains is still very early in many respects, so we're not looking at a full reveal of this zone here. But what we're able to do in this shot is, if you keep that tower in mind, you're going to be able, if you look closely, to see that tower in the distance and start getting a sense of the overall scope and scale of Kingsreach as it's taking shape.
All right, you ready to show it?
Yep.
You sure? Do we want to show this? Oh, yeah, let's get it.
I am positive.
So I love how you set this up. So I'm sure people's eyes are sort of wandering around. Why don't we start that far right? What is that?
Yeah, there's a bridge
over there, Chris. Like, what are we seeing in that far right side?
Yeah, so on the far right, we have Wild's End, and that bridge is part of the Galdassi ruins, the giant ruins there. And then as you move north from that area, or basically straight ahead from where we're looking right now, that's the Eastern Plains, which runs alongside Avendir's Pass and connects Wild's End to Avendir's Pass. We are standing inside of the Silent Plains, looking through the Deicide Thorns into really a pathway into the Eastern Plains and a pathway into Avendir's Pass. And then beyond Avendir's Pass is Thronefast, and a little bit of the Vale of Azurus, one of the peaks of the Vale of Azurus sticking up there in the very, very distance. But on the left, beyond Avendir's Pass, you can just make out that tower is that what in the distance there. And what also could have been cool to show in this picture is
am I looking at that correctly?
One of the player models on top of that thorn right in the foreground there. I did that, but I decided to take it out last minute. But it was the reason I didn't leave it there is because it literally, you couldn't even see it. It's so small.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's
just to give you a sense of scale,
draw distance
here of what we're talking about. So this is a massive world. I couldn't be happier with where we are now and the way that it's beginning to take shape, the way that the mountain topology is beginning to kind of lend itself to the finalization of this continent and all the playable areas that we want players to be able to reach. And also it's an important shot because it represents, a bit of a milestone of, what our goal is ultimately is to see Kingsreach come to fruition. And so to be able to see that many of the game, that many of the areas of the zone at one time like that is, it's very exciting. It's very energizing.
And just to play on everything that you've sort of talked about tonight and talking about points of interest and areas that you want to try to get to, that sense of adventure. And I love that you
bingo!
might be decked out to the nines with the greatest gear. And you
Finally. Thank you.
But it's not just looking at a player. And I think that in MMORPGs, a lot of times what's motivating is you see a player in great gear. And that's kind of where the trend has gone to be. That's sort of the main carrot. But to step back from that and say, well, that's really cool. And there's going to be a lot of people that love that. But then to have adventure, like how did those people get up there? When can I get there? I see it and I can get there. And it's this story that starts from the day you step foot in Terminus until you get to that point of your play. And I think that it's another reason to be invested in the world and explore. And that's really exciting, I think, to a lot of players for the genre. So,
totally agree.
Well, totally Chris, agree. I just want to say thank you. First of all, it was great having you on the stream. I know.
Oh man, I think I got it just in time too.
Your expertise and all this is always welcome. So, thank you for not just being part of the stream, but the effort that you helped put into this stream and the hours we spent together putting this together. We hope everybody enjoyed it and enjoyed these new images, this new look. And again, we just want to make sure to say thank you to everybody who comes and watches this live in the chat, and lights it up and gets excited and shares their feelings that are in our Discord, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you find us, support us and share. We really appreciate it. And again, if you want to help continue to bring this game to life and check out what we have offering in our pledges, check it pantheonmmo.com. There's some great options on there, or can just connect. So, Chris, anything you want to say? We've unveiled art and design and evolution and team growing. What do you want to leave the community with?
I've said it for a long time. We are at a point in the development of this game where the only real talking that matters is the talking that the game and the project can do for itself. And our goal is to continue to get it more and more to the point where it's clear that this project is in capable hands. It's moving in a coherent and definite direction. We have very real specific energy to get this done. We are ramping. We are growing as a team. and this is an exciting time. And this is part of that feeling of imminence that I anticipated for this year to bring, and I only anticipate for that feeling to grow as we move forward. So onward and upward, and I mean that.
Awesome. And I'll leave everybody with this. If you looked at our schedule, you know that we're going to have sort of a special interview, we'll call it for now, coming up at the end of the month. Check the upcoming newsletter. Get some more details coming out on that and some more updates that we're excited to share in the newsletter next Thursday. And just, keep focused on the different stuff we put out there, and hopefully we can continue to drive the excitement. Chris, thanks again. And thank you to the community. Everybody have an amazing night. And thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you all so much.
All right. Oops, let me switch back here. Well, that was a lot of fun. Finally got bingo. Woo, right at the end. I was getting nervous. That I wasn't gonna get it. I got snuck in right under the wire. I had so many chances too. Let's take a look. I have a lot of thoughts on that stream, but let me show you my final bingo card here. How did you guys compare? Did you get more than one bingo? I only got one. Diagonal across the middle here. I was really close. I was really close to a few of them. I thought combat was a little bit of a stretch. I didn't know how they were going to fit the word combat into that, but could have had immersion or alpha would have been nice. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I certainly did. So, all right. So a few things. That was a pretty significant stream. That felt more significant than a lot of the ones recently. For one thing, Ferric says Baz has got to get a Steve Clover interview going. You know what? That's a great idea. That I'm gonna make a note of that. No promises, obviously, but hey, worth a shot. Because yeah, so the announcement that Steve Clover has joined Visionary Realms was like, that was not on my bingo card. Like, holy cow. that was not at all even hadn't even entered my mind. So they explained it a little bit in the stream, but I'll add to it as much as I can. As they said, Steve Clover was one of the co-creators of EverQuest. Brad McQuaid, obviously very well known as the lead designer of EverQuest. Brad was very much responsible for the vision behind the game, and really driving it toward a very community-based experience, drawing from his inspiration from MUDs, making it a very challenging a very challenging game and immersive. So Brad very much earned his reputation for conceptualizing what EverQuest would become. But Steve Clover, as they said in the stream here tonight, like, Steve Clover did a ton of the heavy lifting, as they said, or in other words, like, very, very much responsible for actually, taking the designs and actually churning out the code to make it a playable game. You gotta have both. I mean, Brad definitely did some of his own programming as well, but Steve is kind of the unsung hero of actually making it a shippable, playable game. If you guys want to learn more of that story, if you haven't already, go to YouTube, do yourself a favor, watch the EverQuest phenomenon documentary on YouTube. It's only about 45 minutes, but it digs into the backstory of how EverQuest came to be, includes interviews with Brad and Steve Clover. Now, Steve, from my understanding, is a pretty quiet guy. And you'll see if you watch that documentary, you'll see, Brad's very very outspoken and very visibly passionate. Steve, I'm sure, is very passionate as well, but he's more reserved. And my understanding was that he had pretty much gone off the grid. Brad kind of became more of a well-known figure and went on to do Vanguard and Pantheon. But Steve, I have not heard anything from him in a long time. He kind of kind into obscurity. So to hear that he has come out of the shadows to be a programmer for Pantheon is just kind of mind-blowing to me. I mean, he is a legend in his own right. So that's very pleasantly a very pleasant surprise. I can't even talk. I don't even know how to put it into words because as I was saying at the beginning of the stream, yes, art is a huge it is a huge obstacle that they need to overcome. Although they hired another 3D environment artist, so that is fantastic news. That's 5 new artists in the past 2 months, which is very, very much needed. And I know I made that whole little spiel about how art is a much bigger concern than programming, but as I said, it's not like there isn't any programming left to be done. They really only have 2 programmers that work full time on the team, and they seem to be doing a fantastic job and just pumping out the code. But more help is always very welcome. So that's awesome to hear. So that's good news. That's good news. Let's actually talk about what the majority of the stream was about, which was the art. Actually, before I get to that, yeah, Goofy says, I think it says a lot that Steve came to them. That's a good point, and I want to touch on that because I did notice that as well. That like I said, he came out of the shadows and reached out to VR, which is very interesting. Very interesting to me. I guess I'm not surprised that he hasn't been, keeping an eye on it. Obviously having been such close friends with Brad, they were Steve and Brad were friends before EverQuest. They made War Wizard together, which was a 2D game that they were just kind of that was kind of like their hobby project. Then, I'll give you the brief overview. Steve Clover, Brad McQuaid made War Wizard. They posted it online just as kind of like a hobby project. That is when Smed found that online and figured they would be the right ones for the job to work on EverQuest, which was Smed's idea to have, a first-person, fully 3D RPG. Although I think actually it was Steve, if I remember correctly, it was Steve Clover was the one who came up with the name EverQuest. He coined that name, if I remember correctly. But anyway, Smed picked them up together, and obviously they were a dynamic duo and led EverQuest to be what it is. So, with Steve being such close friends with Brad, I'm not surprised that he's maybe been watching Pantheon and I don't know. I would love to sit down and talk to him. I feel like there's a lot to there's a lot to catch up on like what he has been up to and what led him to join the team. But I gotta think, you know, at the very least, I know there are a lot of people on the team that have known Brad for a long time, and a lot of what drives their passion for Pantheon is just trying to do good on Brad's dream project, you know? Pantheon is Brad's brainchild, and you know, a lot of people like Mike Butler in the customer service department, like he's been friends with Brad a long time, and I know, you know, he's, you know, there's a lot of people that kind of you know, rally together because they just really feel a deep need for the project to be seen through and to be completed. You know, I think that's really cool. I think it's just a fantastic story. So anyway, let's dig into the details a little bit. So concept art. So we start off with concept art, which is not surprising. That's where they chose to start, and I really like the style of the new concept artist. It's kind of interesting how it stuck out almost immediately. That I was like, this doesn't look like the concept art that they've shown in the past, and that's because it's a different artist. But it's still, you know, it still seems to fit. I think it's very beautiful. It's never ceases to amaze me how quickly concept artists can just churn out paintings like that. What we saw was really good. And then they showed off some like screenshots with some of the stuff in game, like the buildings, which also looked good. But, you know, it seemed like a lot of the concept art that had been shown was probably pretty recent, where it still is in like the conceptual phase and hasn't been translated into real assets yet. And again, like as beautiful as the art itself was, it gave the impression to me that there are still a lot of changes in mind for the Zone of Thronefast. So, which is actually kind of puzzling to me. If you guys have any thoughts on this, please let me know. Because and actually it seems like some of the changes actually are completed. So like, for example, that arcane tower up on top of the mountain, if I'm understanding correctly, that used to be on an island in the lake, like basically kind of like in the moat around Thronefast. If I had my image gallery complete on the library, I could quickly pull up a shot of what I'm talking about. But anyway, the Arcane Tower, where the Arcane Caster classes started, was on an island in the middle of the lake. They've shown it in past streams, for sure, in like the HDRP when they were showing off the HDRP. So now that has been moved like up on top of a mountain, and it seems like there's a lot of like drastic changes with like the port city and stuff. That I don't think the port city is actually done yet, but it seems like there's a lot of like moving and shaking going on in Thronefast, which I think it would behoove them to really clarify why, especially just given like given what they've said in the past about Thronefast specifically. Like Thronefast is one of the oldest zones in the game in as far as development goes. You know, and I get, you know, when you're developing, you know, it's not going to be perfect the first time. I mean, it's a very iterative process and stuff. But again, I guess it comes down to more of like a communication thing where it's like they gave the impression, again, maybe this is just me. They gave the impression that Thrown Fast was like, you know, it's blocked out. Like, yeah, there's going to be little, you know, like prop placement here and there. It's not like 100% done because really whatever is in an MMO, like, but, and it's not like they've scrapped the zone completely, but like it seems to me between the screenshots that they showed and the concept art for things that they're planning, like it seems like there's some pretty big shifts, like taking entire areas of zones and moving them around and that sort of thing. And so I think it's a little confusing. I think I would like a little bit more clarity on, you know, why that is the case. At what point can you actually say, you know, this zone is like 99% done, it doesn't really need any like significant changes, at least before alpha, you know? And like what is the decision process that goes into what areas of the world to work on? Because it seems from my perspective anyway, it seems a little disjointed in that, you know, we've heard like, okay, they were working on the zone Mangle Rock, which we haven't heard much about in a long time. And better example, Silent Plains. I want to say over a year ago or something, they're like, we're really like starting to dig into the Silent Plains. And then it seems like they just kind of like put that to the side and then worked on another area. And even in this stream today, they said that like Silent Plains is still very early, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, but you said you were like diving into that zone like a year and a half ago. And then they're like, you know, they were really going full steam ahead on like Wild's End for a while. And then it's like, okay, we're putting Wild's End kind of like on the back burner. Now we're like back in Thrown Fast, which has already been, you know, renovated many times. And so again, just from the outside looking in with a very limited view that we have, it just seems weird. It seems weird. You know, MMO development is very complicated, and so things like that I think need a more thorough explanation. Because yeah, like what we saw tonight looks great, but I'm just thinking like, why is this happening now? Do you know what I mean? That's something that just kind of pricked my mind that I couldn't shake when we were seeing that. Donler, we have never seen the Veywood. South Sail Peninsula, the last time we saw South Sail was 2017. So that was in a co-stream April 2017 with Co-Carnage. 5 years ago was last time we saw South Sail, and that was with Unity assets, so no doubt that has been overhauled since. Which that reminds me, so I saw some of you talking about we haven't had a co-stream since I believe August of last year, so it has been a while. And co-streams are a blast. We actually created a bingo card specifically tailored for those Co-Carnage streams, those gameplay streams. Those are a lot of fun. But you know, they don't do them all that often, and that's actually probably for the best, because you know, Co has a massive audience, and a lot of people probably have never even heard of Pantheon before. And so, you know, pretty much ever since they first teamed up with Co-Carnage back in 2016, they really spread those streams out pretty far. It's such that they can always come with like a big reveal and have the game looking as good as it realistically can, and really show show off a lot of progress. Because again, I mean, there's like 20,000 people that tune into those streams as opposed to like the few hundred that tune in on these monthly streams. So, you know, they've been making a lot of like big strides lately in the past year on some really like important aspects of the game, like networking and HDRP and that sort of thing. Like those are tectonic shifts in the game's development, and so it takes a little bit of time. You know, they can't really show off the game if your network layer isn't working. So that sort of thing, I think, is what has kind of contributed to that, to it being, you know, a year since the last one. Hopefully, it seems like they're kind of honing in on the game being a state where it's more presentable again. So maybe within the next few months, that'll be a possibility. So because I mean, a year is a little bit longer. In the past years, they may be like every 6 to 8 months, but once every year or so, it's not out of the question. Especially given the like kind of unprecedented changes that they've been making lately. Thorndeep says, I got the impression that lots is being worked on simultaneously. We were just getting small glimpses of what's being done. I mean, that's true. And again, which is why I'm not coming to any huge conclusions, because again, it was like, you know, a 45-minute stream or so with a handful of like screenshots and videos and such. So it's pretty limited in the amount of conclusions that you can come to based on that. But I know, like, in the past, like, I think the opportunity for them to work on, say, multiple zones simultaneously was very limited up until very recently. Like, now, in the past couple months, now that they've hired 5 new artists, then I could start to see, okay, yeah, maybe they could be working on, like, 2 different zones at the same time pretty reasonably. Again, I would, you know, is that better than just really like going full bore on one zone and hammering out one zone? I don't know. Again, that would be kind of a nice thing to explain. But again, remembering that before, you know, even a few months ago, they pretty much only had one 3D environment artist. And again, it seems to me that it wouldn't really be most efficient for them to kind of divide their attention between multiple zones if you only have one 3D environment artist. So I don't know. Again, I think I would just personally appreciate some clarity on what that process is like. Like, how do they prioritize what zones need to be worked on, and what justifies going back to a zone that was already pretty well put together and then making changes to it, you know? It's just a question. Thorndeep says, once Summoner and Ranger are done, we'll hopefully get another gameplay stream. Summoner would be awesome. Do we know, like, does Code typically play pet classes? Like, if that's like something that he really enjoys and is good at, like, that would be a perfect stream. Especially since the Summoner is one of the few classes that has never been showcased in a stream. Again, because the pet system is fairly complex and isn't something that they've been able to get in fully working in the past. So that would be pretty hype. That'd be pretty hype for sure if they could get co-carnage on the Summoner. maybe show off, you know, the new art that they've been working on. That would be good. Thunderleg says, did I miss any news about vinyl? No, that wasn't really what this stream was about. I would look to the next newsletter for information on things like that. Let me pull up the library here. I was talking about the library before. I'll show you. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. Oh, let me go back to the homepage here. So every month VR puts out these awesome calendars. They post it on social media. But just in case you miss those social media posts or you don't have social media or whatever the case may be, we host it in a centralized location here on the front page of the library, so you can always come back. Again, a lot of these things have pretty predictable schedules, like the dev live stream, like I said, second Thursday of every month. The roundtable gets recorded on the last Friday of every month and then is released it's recorded in VIP Discord on the last Friday of every month, and then it is released to the public exactly 1 week later. Normally, now this month is a little bit of an exception. Like they're saying, this is going to be like an all-access roundtable that presumably will be done live. So that's a little bit interesting. So again, you know, if there's ever any sort of doubt as to when you can expect some new content out of VR, go over to the librarypantheon.com. We've got the calendar right there on the front page. So, yeah, so they spread things out pretty well throughout the month. So the newsletter will be coming out in a week from today on the 21st. Chromacore says, gonna lurk and animate some hands, man. Go for it. Best of luck with that. That is much more important than the rambling that's going on here. Goofy Warrior Guy says, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall watching Kyle, Robert, and Adam's reactions when they told them Steve Clover was joining. Yeah, that's... Me too, man. That's massive. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Phone Date says, do we know who will be on the next developer roundtable? We don't. They were kind of making it seem like a surprise. Maybe it will be with Steve. Well, how about that? How about that? That would be kind of interesting. That's kind of an intriguing thought. I didn't think of until just now. I might be wrong, but like, that would be pretty sweet. Donler says, I'm glad they updated rock terrain textures. That was the last big eyesore for me. That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me. Because yes, the textures do look great. Maybe you guys can clarify this for me, because I think I might have misunderstood when they were talking about it. I can't help but notice that the mountains are very kind of like angular, for lack of a better word, and very terraced. And it seemed like to me like that was intentional to allow for more like playable space where they can put, you know, NPCs and things like that. You know, you've got that verticality, so you like kind of climb up like a sheer mountain face, rock face, and then you get up to another kind of like plateau area, which makes a lot of sense as far as, you know, getting the most out of the space. But what I might have missed or misunderstood was from just like kind of like a visual standpoint, like when you're really zoomed out, maybe it wouldn't be so obviously when you're actually on the ground playing, but like if you're high up looking out over a high distance, it looks kind of unusual to me to have everything just kind of be like right angles like that. Like mountains don't really look like that to me. Maybe in some areas, you know, you maybe have some areas, maybe that's just this part of the world where the mountains kind of ended up looking like that. Because again, Terminus is a planet made up of, excuse me, the terrain of other planets that's called kind of conglomerated together in weird ways. But I guess I would just hope that not all mountains look that way. You know, some mountains would be kind of more smoothed out and such. Did they say that that was like the plan to smooth it out a little bit or not? Did they comment on that at all? Goofy says, I'm liking the better coloring now. Those first HD party visuals were very stark and bright. The trees, green, and rock shading looks way more natural now. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Going with more kind of like a brown neutral tone, that helps a lot. And they are more textured, for sure. Donler says you don't think they mentioned that? Okay, well, maybe I'll ask next time, have an opportunity. Maybe the dev roundtable, we'll see. I don't know like what the topic will be, but it sounds like that will be announced in the next newsletter anyway. So there's a lot to look for in this next newsletter for sure. Joppa mentioned that the playable space has increased significantly. Yeah, he said like 2 times the amount of playable space, which is pretty crazy, and that's great. Like, I get that, but to me, like, you know, there kind of has to be like a compromise. There has to be a compromise. Between maximizing playable space, but then also still making it look believable, you know? Oh, one other thing that I was going to say too about, speaking of textures, this is just kind of a random thought I had. One thing to keep in mind when we're watching these streams too is that, you know, when they're streaming footage via Twitch, and I mean, the same thing goes for recorded footage on YouTube as well. If any sort of video footage, there's inevitably some compression that goes on in that video file to reduce the size of the file, and that means that that's a certain degree of the visual data in that video that shows like really fine, detailed textures and stuff. Some of that gets lost in order to present the in order to present the video more smoothly. You know, like if, especially when streaming on Twitch, like not every pixel from the original source will make it to your screen, okay? And I think that's helpful to keep in mind because, you know, as good as some of these screenshots looked, there is invariably some detail that was lost in the presentation of it. And so, when you are actually playing it for yourself and seeing it firsthand on your own screen, particularly if you have like a higher res monitor, like 1440p or 4K or whatever you play in, it's gonna look a lot better and a lot more crisp. It was particularly noticeable to me in some of the videos, especially if you have moving, like those panning shots. Screenshots are a little bit different, but when you have videos with a lot of movement, like if you're panning across a landscape, the video encoder is going to drop some of that data and make the textures look a little bit more smoothed over. And so it was particularly noticeable in a couple of shots in this stream, like when they were panning over Thrown Fast. some of like the grass in particular, you know, it's not going to render each individual like grass blade, even if they might see that on their screen when they're playing the game. When it gets to us, you're not going to have that detail. Sometimes it looked very smooth, very kind of like smoothed over. And so just something to keep in mind, that, you know, it's very easy to get some of these like kind of like gut reactions when you're watching. And this applies to any game, any video on YouTube. You'd be like, oh, these graphics suck. Like, you know, it's very easy to have that first impression, but just keep in mind that when you actually go to play, it'll be a little bit more crisp. It might not be dramatic, you know, you're not, it's not going to change the like entire appearance of the game, but it's going to give you a little bit extra detail. So anyway, Goofy says, Joppa said their new hire was named Esther, and I don't see her listed on the team page yet. Yeah, it seems like she was, I'm assuming Esther is a she. I could be wrong. It seemed like a fairly recent hire, and it does take them a little while. Oh, well, of course, as I say that, they've got Steve Clover up there under programming already. Did they just do that like right now, like during the stream? Because that would be impressive. Yeah, you're right. Not up there yet. Hopefully soon. You know, maybe they're still kind of in the process of getting onboarded and such. It's not a huge deal, but this art team is looking quite nice now in terms of size. There was a long time where they had like 4 people under the art and animation department. So they're definitely ramping up. That's good. Many hands make light work, as they say. And they need many hands, because making an MMORPG is no small task. Any other changes they snuck in here? I gotta know, because we keep track of this on the library as well, as far as like the social media profiles, like forum profiles, Twitter profiles, Reddit profiles for the developers. So I might have to look into that. Anyway, I think that is going to be it for me tonight. I will try my very best to get this on YouTube tomorrow. Again, no promises, because I am leaving to go camping. I am going to try, though, to get it on YouTube, because this was an absolute blast. Some very good news coming out of VR, and I finally got bingo. That really is the most important thing out of all this. As always, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. It really means a lot. You come in here, we keep each other company. It's always a good time. So let's do it again next month, shall we? Again, next month I am planning on doing another reaction the day after their live stream. So let's plan on that for now. If it changes, I will let you know. We'll meet back up then. Can react and pause and chat as we go. I can't wait for it, my friends. Thank you. We'll see you then. Until then, however, stay curious and adventure on.